Hello everyone, welcome to This Day. It is Saturday, October 16th. We don't have any meetings to tell you about today, so we'll just jump to who's on our show. Now, we sat down with Dr. James CHEN, who is here on behalf of Memorial Care Joint Replacement Center at SADDLEBACK Medical Center, and he's going to talk to us, of course, on a knee replacement as well as some other things that he does. And we discussed CJ's chat box with the host, Constance Sorensen. So she's going to tell us all about our new show and all the exciting stuff that she's been doing with that. All right, let's take a look at our local weather. We are looking at very nice skies this weekend. No rain in sight, and it's going to be very pleasant temperatures. Although today we are looking at a high of 84.59, but that we are cooling down over the next couple of days. 75.57 and 70.54. If you're traveling in the state of California, take a look at these numbers. Things are looking quite nice. The beaches locally 80.57, San Diego 80.59, Santa Barbara 72.51, Tahoe 60.29, Mammoth 60.22, Big Bear 60.30, Palm Springs 88, and Las Vegas 80. So looking very nice. Our sunrise this morning was at 6:57. And our sunset will be at 6:15. So definitely earlier is the sun going down. And if you have a photo you would like to share with us, Mark sent this one in and I had to use it because I just love the feel of it. Send it to Laguna Woods Village TV at gmail.com. Make sure it is a high resolution photo and that it is your own work, not somebody else's. All right, when we come back, we will have Dr. James CHEN, so stick around.
2 in 3 Alzheimer's disease patients are women. If you or your loved ones are experiencing symptoms of memory loss or confusion, call our clinic today to schedule a free screening. At Tilda Research, you will work with distinguished physicians and researchers like Dr. Ken Deck, who has served the Orange County community for over 40 years. We offer patient stipends and free transportation. Call and schedule your free screening now.
Welcome back. Today I am joined by Dr. James CHEN, who is here on behalf of Memorial Care. Well, Dr. CHEN, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Lisa. Very nice to meet you.
Now, I understand that you are very new to Memorial Care, so we would certainly like to hear about how your journey brought you to the area. So give us a little background on yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for the introduction. So I'm Dr. James CHEN. As you mentioned, I'm new to the area, just this last month, actually. So I specialize in hip and knee replacements, and I focus my care to the patient by customizing with the use of technology and rapid recovery protocols. And so this is really, I've always seen as a gem of Southern California, so I'm very happy to be back in the area.
So where were you before?
So I did most of my training up in Los Angeles and New York City, actually. And so I am coming fresh from New York, so quite a change in pace, but me and my family, we're loving the area.
That's great, yes, and I'm sure you'll be loving the weather soon, if not already.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Obviously, you know, Southern Californians are very active outside and they play a lot of sports. You know, even into their elderly years. I mean, with our community, they are super active. Tennis, pickleball, golf. I mean, you name it. They are out there and they're very active. So, of course, our knees hurt, our hips hurt. There's all sorts of things that hurt all the time. So I'm sure you see your fair share of those folks who come to you. So, or come to, you know, the area in terms of needing something done. So give me an idea of why we would replace something as opposed to just kind of nurturing it.
Definitely. And that's a great question, Lisa. And, you know, that's one of the beauties of this area is that we can all enjoy the outdoors. We can stay active. And so when you should consider sort of a hip and knee replacement surgery or come see me is when you can't do those things anymore. And so I think, you know, I'm an active individual. I like to keep my patients active as well. So if you can't do those activities you want to do, like pickleball, tennis, golf, sporting activities, and you are starting to have pain in your hips, your knees, things like anti-inflammatories, therapy, ice are no longer working, then just come in, take a visit. And that's when you should really start considering these replacement surgeries to help you become active again.
So I know that technology has changed quite a bit, over time and obviously for the better. But I still think, in my opinion, that people are still worried about hip replacements or even back surgery or a knee replacement or something, because they're always worried, gosh, what if it doesn't work? And then I'm like, are you worse off than you were before? What would you say to those people?
Definitely, they're very, very valid concerns. We've come a long way in the past several decades, especially as far as making this a safe and very streamlined procedure. And if you have those concerns, I'd recommend you to come in and talk to us, because we like to sort of exhaust non-operative management first, get you the most out of it. But when it comes to the point of having a back surgery or hip replacement surgery or knee replacement surgery, you'll know typically, and it's generally worth the risk, and it's a very safe and streamlined procedure these days. We do the surgery and you're up walking the same day majority of the time. Same day discharges are now becoming a new thing, which we can discuss later. So it's, I think, changed quite a bit.
Yeah, so let's talk about those procedures. What are some things that you do now that you didn't have maybe 10 years ago?
Yeah, correct. So there's a lot of exciting things, and I could talk for hours on these different technologies that are coming out. But I think as a whole, the new sort of approach, or the approach these days, is really a team-based approach. And I think it's important to know that when we go through this as a patient, you are a part of that team. I'm a part of that team. Your anesthesiologist, your social help at home, whether it be your spouse, family member, a friend, the nursing staff, the hospital staff. It's really a team-based approach. And that sort of, those protocols that are in place, that again, we can go through in detail at some other time, are really the big changes that I see. There are other changes, of course, technology, so certain instruments that help me put the positions in an exact position that I like to sort of put them in, and adjust them and customize them to specific patients. So there are different technologies such as robotics, navigation, that help us sort of do that and execute the surgery in a more minimally invasive approach and a customized approach as well.
I hear a lot about robotic surgery, and I'm just curious because the question was actually posed to me, like, well, what is the advantage of using a robotic situation as opposed to just your hands and actually doing the surgery on the patient as opposed to the robotics?
Correct. That's a great question. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding when it comes to robotics and total joints as well. There's a lot of robotic innovation that's happening in surgery in general. When it comes to total hip and total knee replacement surgeries, the hands-on portion of it is still in the surgeon's hands. It's really a navigation type tool that uses a robotic assistance to actually perform that surgery. So when putting in the components, when preparing the bone, it's an assistive device, but the surgery is always in the surgeon's hands.
So what does it assist you with?
I think the big thing is preoperative planning. So with some of the robots out there, before we do any cuts, before we even get to the operating room, we can plan the size of implants, the position based off your pelvic anatomy, your spine anatomy, helps us go into the surgery with an ideal target in a safe zone for that individual patient, and then helps guarantee the execution of that. And again, as surgeons, we're trained to do this very well. And total hips is one of the most successful procedures in history of medicine. And so clearly it's a very well-performing surgery. This just allows us to push the procedure a little bit further down that mark.
Okay, so if somebody was a candidate for a hip replacement or even a knee replacement, I imagine they would have to have x-rays or MRIs. And at that time is when you would use your robotic assistance as to how to identify what you would use. And then that person would come in for surgery?
Correct. There are many different types. And so it does depend, but there are some with based off anatomy. We always check x-rays on all of our patients before the surgery. Some we have to get advanced imaging, which then we sort of use the robotic planning and navigation to then make those specific plans, as you mentioned. Correct.
Okay. All right, great. Now, of course, we're just coming out of our pandemic for the most part, and people are still concerned about coming back to having surgery. Is that something that you can advise them to do today?
Yeah, definitely. And, I was just having this conversation earlier today, there's been a lot of changes in the medical field when it comes to the pandemic, obviously. And when it comes to an elective surgery like total hip and knee replacements, there's been a lot of that question. Is it a good time to go to the hospital? And argue that depending on where you are, it's almost safer. And that's because of all of the things that we've done at the hospital. So when you come to the hospital, everybody that you encounter that works there has either been vaccinated or tested negative. Patients that now come to the hospital have to prove themselves testing negative. And so the process as far as getting patients in the door, there's at least some verification there. There's also been a big push with getting patients home safely, and that's where that team approach that I previously mentioned sort of comes into play. And then we're also offering more education, so our preoperative classes for total hip and knees are all done virtually now as well. And so that's been a good resource for the majority of our patients. So I think now is actually a very good and safe time to have these elective surgeries done.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate you sharing that information with us, and welcome to the area.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Thank you for having me.
All right, you're welcome. And we'll be right back after this.
I'm very concerned that patients with stroke, heart attack, sepsis, or other medical emergencies are delaying care. Let me reassure you, it is safe and critically important that you do not ignore the signs and symptoms such as chest discomfort, shortness of breath, difficulty breathing, or sudden onset of headache. If you think you may be having a medical emergency, don't wait. Call 911 or go to your nearest emergency room.
Get out and live your life with the Buzz Around XL travel scooter from Golden. The Buzz Around is fun to drive with a tight indoor turning radius so you can go just about anywhere. It's also so easy to charge and offers all-day range so you can go further. The Buzz Around even has more leg and foot room for all-day driving comfort. Be safe with the XL's ultra-bright LED headlight. Plus, the Buzz Around XL can be easily taken apart into several lightweight pieces. See for yourself just how easy and affordable mobility freedom can be.
Welcome back. Well, today I am joined by Constance Sorensen, who is here on behalf of her brand new show called CJ's Chat Box. Well, Constance, thank you for joining us.
Thanks. It's good to be here.
Now, we've known you for a while, and you were helping out the show, ThisDay, and a variety of other shows here with a makeup, and you were a makeup artist for a while. And then
Yes.
you were a band manager and now a talk show host. So just, if you wouldn't mind, give us just a brief description of you and how long you've lived here.
I've been in the village since '02, which means it's, almost 20 years ago now. So I've been here quite a while, worked at home, so I haven't joined as many things, or I have lately, but for the first few years I didn't. So that, and now that things have closed down, I can't play bridge anymore. Some of the billiard rooms aren't open. Those were some of the things that I enjoyed doing.
Yeah.
So I guess that was, and now that I'm not being able to do the makeup anymore, which I really, really enjoyed because it was a way to get them meet people here in the village, whether they were board members or guests that came on for their business. But it was a great time. And I think part of my talking with them, the whole 5 minutes I had to do their makeup, maybe started I've always been curious. And part of that may have started there in the makeup room, that I would ask them what they were going to talk about. And then they would tell me. And so I think just that feedback, me asking because I'm curious, them responding, that kind of made me think about the fact I really missed talking with people. And so one of the ways was to be able to do that was to say, Paul, how about I have a show that I can talk to these very, very interesting people in the village, because I have met some of them through billiards or, bridge or whatever I'm involved in. And when they would tell me their stories, I would be just absolutely flabbergasted. So I thought we need to share that with people here in the village to know them at a deeper level, I guess. And so I did start with some of the people, Laura Waller being one of them. And you know what? She has a fantastic story to tell. And one of the things that the byproduct of what has happened from the show is that she said, my granddaughter has watched it, but she never knew my story. And so it is generationally going to act as if it's like a mini book, if you will, because they're being able to watch and hear the history of that. And another byproduct that I have found is that the importance of where they grew up, what their childhood was like, and how much that shaped them. That when I spoke with Rabbi Blue about his beginnings, picking cotton in Tucson and then moving to San Bernardino, and then being in a small band and running into Lou Rawls, and Rawls saying, why don't you come visit sometime and show me your music? And the persistence of Blue taking a bus from San Bernardino to LA 4 days in a row in order to see and meet this man. And the next thing you knew, he was hired by them and he served playing the bass with Lou Rawls for 7 years.
For some reason as a kid, that music, the mariachi stuff, and the Navajo chants, the powwows, those chants always spoke to my heart. I didn't quite understand why. It brought such an interest in me, but now I know why.
Yeah.
I know now that I'm older, why, because a lot of that is so inclusive to a lot of the praises of the hymns to the Most High. So, and so by me being young like that and not understanding it, just gravitating toward it, and then when I started to growing up and learning instruments, I started incorporating that kind of spirit because it was in me to do.
Look at that.
And that whole persistence that he had by just showing up. He has tremendous musical talent, and that was, again, a God-gifted thing. He said, I didn't even know I had that inside me, but it came out when I picked up a guitar. And when I interviewed Joey Sims to find out how is she such a funny lady, and meeting through her, of course, her family, her father was a stunt driver. And so she lives on the edge all the time. She's a risk taker.
Yeah.
And then when she was looking through some of her, items and memorabilia, she was very taken with, she said, I forgot how funny my mom was.
Yeah.
And that was really, for her, a tender moment. And then my latest gal that I just met, she's moved just recently into the village. And I met with her for like an hour, which is how I normally do that. I find out who has a story, and then I meet with them for about an hour and just talk to them, take a couple of notes maybe. But what happens also is that as they're telling me their story, I'm very visual. So as they're telling me the story, and I don't care if it's in Russia or if it's in, Tucson, that my mind sees that background. And so I'm kind of taking that journey with them. So in meeting Bonnie Garrett McKibben, who's, like I said, brand new, my heaven's sakes, where do you get the strength to leave home at the age of 14 and survive? And because of her love for music, it was so strong that she could overcome anything to pursue that. And it's almost like, and when you hear, again, Laura Waller just stands out because of the fact that she's like 3 years old running for their lives in Russia from the war, and literally living on a train for most of her early, she didn't go to school till she was in 6th grade. But her, again, learning to read by her grandfather giving a newspaper as they were sleeping in a garage, in a barn, all those kinds of things, you can see how she became this great strong, successful person.
Right.
And then, immigrating to the United States, not speaking any English, she took 3 freeways, driving in a car to get to work in LA as a fashion designer.
Yeah.
I wouldn't drive 3 freeways now to get anywhere.
Well,
and I speak English.
Yeah, now versus then is a far cry from the traffic standpoint. Well, it sounds like you've really been able to dive in and really understand folks. And I do love the fact that you're telling stories, because that's something I think that's really been lost, over time, especially I'm finding with families that, all of our photos are now trapped in our phones. We don't print them anymore, and we don't look at them in a book. So that's something that's lost. And then, like you said, how is anyone going to know the history if, number one, you're not getting together every Christmas and Thanksgiving and telling those stories? And I think that's certainly a lost situation. So I love the fact that you're diving in and helping people realize that, hey, there's a lot more to my grandma or grandpa than I ever knew. So I love that. Now tell me, when does the show air?
It airs on Wednesdays at 10:30 and Sundays at 3:30.
Okay.
And this is the other reason that this is, again, the pandemic can bring about some good things, that I couldn't come to the studio to interview them, and I didn't want to do it on Zoom. So therefore we did it on location. And the at ease feeling when you're in their surroundings. Sometimes we did it at Clubhouse 19 or out in the, with Blue, I did it out in the yard at Clubhouse 2. Mm-hmm. It makes them relax. And also, of course, the big thing, I would have not been able to do any of this if it wasn't for Carmen Picella. Carmen used his iPhone, as unintimidating as that is, because you get talking to the person and you're caught up in your conversation.
Yes.
And he's walking around with this little iPhone, taking the pictures and recording the show. And we've got mics on so they can hear us. Uh-huh. And without that, I would not have been able to do any of them. He has been just rock solid in this. He edits that. And the other beautiful thing is, and that's why he says, he gives me compliments, because he said, you're really good at this, because we only do one take. We never have to retake anything. So his editing is only when we've gone over the 28 minutes that we're allowed. Uh-huh. Then he may have some places, and there are really certain people that I could have spent an hour with, Laura Waller being one of them, because of her artistic talent, and we were able to see some of that.
Right.
But we tried to keep it down to that. One of the gals that we did, she was from my church, 95 years old, and she sings like an angel. At the age of 93, she sang Mother Abbess from Sound of Music, and she brought down the house. I mean, she hit every high note from Climb Memory Mountain. And so we wanted to tape her in April, which we did, because she was 95, and then we showed it in May, and she passed away in May.
Oh.
And so it was timely that he got to see it. But not only that, at her funeral, her relatives from Indiana and Ohio, wherever they were back in the Midwest, were so absolutely honored that we had done that for her. Because I don't even know how many recordings of her. She would sing at church at least once a month, and she'd get her walker and walk up to the lectern, leave the walker there, and then sing out of just unbelievable, Swinging with the Saints. I mean, that was one of my favorites. But she would do this all the time, and she's been in the village. She lived here for 32 years. Her and her husband, she said, we sang at all the clubs. We were called the Peter, Paul, and Mary of Leisure World. And so she had been here a long time. She I said, how do you keep your voice so beautiful? And she said, you have to use it or you will lose it.
That's right.
You have to sing a lot, practice.
Yeah.
So those are just the byproducts that I had no idea would come from this.
That's great.
Because I'm enjoying myself and I'm enjoying meeting these people.
It's fun, isn't it?
Is that they're surprised. I think some of them they're kind of surprised. You want to interview me? I don't even think my life was that interesting. And then when I start to ask the questions, and again, I tell them right up front when I'm interviewing them before we're taping, I said, if I ask you something that you don't feel comfortable in answering, or it's too private, just don't answer it, or just say, I prefer not to answer that. That has never happened.
Good.
That has
Good.
never happened. And I think part of that, again, we're together. There's a trust that comes without even realizing how much we share things that first hour that I probably don't share with the average person.
Right.
And I've only known this person for about an hour.
Well,
So-
right, but you know what? That also is a testament to you as an interviewer, because you're able to make them feel comfortable and trusting, and that's really a really great skill for you, Constance. So that's awesome. Well, I want to congratulate you on your new show, and again, that airs. Tell us one more time.
Wednesdays at 10:30 and Sundays at 3:30.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. And would you prefer me to call you CJ from now on?
Depends on where you're at. If you're in the band, I'm still CJ. And now, of course, that's why it's called CJ's Chat Box. And there's other places still at Bridge and at church. I'm Constance.
Okay.
Just don't call me Connie. I'm not Connie.
All right. Well, Constance/CJ, congratulations and thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Lisa.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And we'll be right back after this.
Looking for a change of scenery? You don't have to play golf to enjoy all that 19 Restaurant and Lounge has to offer. From a delicious breakfast menu to our delectable lunch and dinner specials. At 19 Restaurant and Lounge, there's something for everyone. Relax with your friends and family and take in the beautiful view from our spacious patio. Or enjoy a cocktail and appetizer in our lounge. 19 Restaurant and Lounge is a great place to socialize, enjoy a meal, or simply take in the view. Join us 7 days a week and experience Laguna Woods' exclusive dining experience.
Welcome back. Our movie for today is called A Father's Legacy, and it is about a young man on the run who takes an old man hostage in his own home. As both men reveal the secrets of their past, they realize they may have been brought together for a reason. Now you can watch that today at 2 p.m. with subtitles, 6 p.m. without subtitles, and that is brought to you by Memorial Care. All right, just a couple of announcements real quick. We wanted to let you know again about the drive-through food bank that Saddleback Church is doing right here at the United Methodist Church on Moulton Parkway. And if you want more information about that, you can call 949-609-8574. All right, let's take a look at our weather. Of course, it is looking lovely out today with a little bit on the warmer side, 84-59. Tomorrow, 75-57. Then on Monday, 70-54. If you're traveling in California, take a look at these numbers. The beaches actually look very nice, anywhere from 72 to 80s. And the mountains are generally in the 60s with overnights in the 20s and the 30s. Palm Springs, 88-60, and Las Vegas, 80-54. Have a great day in the Village. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll see you again here on Monday at 9 a.m. Bye-bye.